Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It's over. Sharon slaps Nick and reveals her new boyfriend is the young and the restless. Spoilers. It's over. Those two words echo like a gunshot through the heart of Genoa City as Sharon Newman finally reaches her breaking point, delivering not only a shocking slap across Nick Newman's face but also a revelation so explosive it leaves him frozen in disbelief, his world tilting off its axis in a way he never saw coming, because for weeks Nick had convinced himself that Sharon's distance was temporary, that her hesitation was nothing more than fear resurfacing from their complicated past. Yet, the truth is far more devastating as Sharon stands trembling but resolute, her eyes blazing with years of suppressed pain, betrayal and disappointment. And in a moment that feels both impulsive and long overdue, she strikes Nick, the sharp sound cutting through the room as loudly as her words that follow, telling him this is not about old wounds reopening but about her finally choosing herself after years of emotional whiplash, as Nick reels from the slap not because of the pain but because of the certainty in Sharon's voice, a certainty he hasn't heard from her in years, and when he demands to know what she's talking about, insisting they can fix this like they always do, Sharon laughs bitterly, reminding him that always is exactly the problem, because every time they circle back to each other, it ends the same way, with broken promises, divided loyalties, and Nick choosing everyone else before choosing her. And as Nick protests, swearing that things are different now, that he's ready to commit fully, Sharon drops the bombshell that obliterates his hope entirely. She's moved on, and not in the vague, uncertain way Nick expects, but completely, decisively, with someone new already standing in the space Nick once assumed he could reclaim whenever he wanted. And when Nick demands to know who this mystery man is, expecting perhaps a nameless distraction or rebound fling, Sharon pauses just long enough to let the tension suffocate him before revealing the name that sends shockwaves through the Newman family and beyond. Her new boyfriend is someone Nick knows all too well, someone whose presence redefines the rules of loyalty, rivalry, and betrayal in Genoa City. Because this man isn't just a romantic interest, he's a statement, a declaration that Sharon is done being the safety net for Nick's emotional chaos, and as the realization dawns on Nick, his anger flares, accusing Sharon of doing this to hurt him, of choosing this man specifically to provoke jealousy. But Sharon refuses to accept that narrative anymore, insisting this relationship isn't about Nick at all but about finding stability, respect, and a future that doesn't constantly feel like it's waiting to collapse under the weight of unresolved history. And the more Nick lashes out, the clearer it becomes that he underestimated Sharon's resolve, because she no longer backs down, no longer softens her truth to spare his feelings, telling him that every time she gave him another chance she lost another piece of herself, and this time she refuses to disappear into his shadow again, while Nick struggles to process the idea of Sharon choosing someone else, especially someone so deeply entwined in his own world, and the slap suddenly feels symbolic rather than impulsive, a final punctuation mark on a relationship that has been rewritten too many times to survive, as memories of their shared past flood Nick's mind, from the early days of passion and promise to the endless cycles of separation and reunion, each one leaving deeper scars than the last, and he realizes too late that he always assumed Sharon would be there, waiting, forgiving, understanding, while Sharon, standing taller than ever, explains that love without security is not love at all, it's survival, and she's done surviving, as news of the confrontation spreads quickly through Genoa City, sending ripples through the Newman and Abbott families alike, with Victor Newman viewing Sharon's new relationship as a calculated threat, Nikki worrying about the emotional fallout for Nick, and others questioning whether this new man is truly the fresh start Sharon believes him to be or merely another chapter in a long saga of heartbreak. Yet Sharon remains unwavering, defending her choice even as doubts and whispers surround her, because for the first time in years, she feels seen, valued, and prioritized, something Nick promised countless times but never fully delivered. And as Nick watches her walk away, the finality of the moment crashes down on him with brutal clarity. This isn't one of their temporary breakups. This isn't a dramatic pause before another reunion. This is the end, and the slap becomes the moment he will replay endlessly. The instant he realizes that Sharon Newman is no longer his to lose and find again. She's someone else's future now, leaving Nick standing alone with the haunting realization that love taken for granted eventually finds the courage to walk away, setting the stage for even more explosive fallout as Genoa City braces for the consequences of Sharon's bold new beginning and Nick's painful awakening. Because in this town, endings are rarely quiet. And this one has only just begun. The air in the Newman mansion feels heavy, almost suffocating, as Sharon Newman's declaration hangs in the room like a storm cloud ready to break, and Nick, still reeling from the slap and the revelation, stumbles back, clutching his chest as if he could physically hold onto the part of his heart Sharon has just claimed for someone else, while Sharon, steady yet trembling with the intensity of her own emotions, walks deliberately toward the door, each step echoing like a drumbeat of finality, her mind racing with memories of every time she had compromised herself for Nick's comfort, every time she had hidden her tears, every time she had bent her own dreams and desires to accommodate his ever-shifting priorities, and now, standing on the precipice of her own new beginning, she feels a mix of liberation and guilt, because leaving Nick behind is not just a matter of ending a relationship, it's severing a bond that had once defined her, and the gravity of that is not lost on her as she anticipates the shockwaves her announcement will send throughout Genoa City, a city that thrives on scandal, betrayal, and the interwoven lives of its most powerful families, because in the moment she speaks her truth, the fallout begins to ripple outward, starting with Nick, whose face has turned a mixture of disbelief, rage and desperation, his voice catching as he calls her name, demanding answers, pleading for a chance to understand, but Sharon, with an air of calm authority she rarely allowed herself, tells him that the explanations he craves are irrelevant, that the man she has chosen is not a rebound, not a placeholder, not a whisper of her past but a declaration of her future, and the revelation that follows, the identity of this new man, hits Nick like a physical blow, because it is none other than Adam Newman, the sibling he had spent years both protecting and opposing, the man who has always been his rival in business and love, the man who, until now, had been the living embodiment of everything Nick loathed. And as the name escapes Sharon's lips, the room seems to shrink around Nick, his knees almost buckling under the weight of shock, betrayal, and an unspoken understanding that his family, his control, and his heart have just been challenged in the most personal way imaginable, while Sharon stands firm, eyes unwavering, and explains that Adam is not simply a twist in a story or a convenient shock factor, but a man who sees her, truly sees her, in a way Nick never could, a man whose presence restores the balance and affirmation Sharon has been seeking for years, and in that moment, Nick realizes that every choice he made, every attempt to reclaim Sharon was built on assumptions of entitlement rather than true partnership, and the guilt begins to gnaw at him even as anger continues to surge, because the realization that Sharon has not only moved on but chosen his own brother as the person to share her life with creates a storm of conflicting emotions that he can neither fully control nor articulate, as the scene in the Newman mansion becomes almost cinematic, with shadows dancing along the walls, the faint glimmer of holiday lights, juxtaposing the emotional devastation, and each heartbeat stretching into eternity, echoing through the corridors like the relentless passage of time that Nick can no longer manipulate, and as Sharon turns to leave, Adam appears behind her, calm, confident and unflinching, his mere presence a confirmation of Sharon's words, and as Nick looks between the two, his mind spins with questions, accusations, and the bitter sting of jealousy, because the man he has fought against, schemed against, and argued with for decades is now the person with whom Sharon shares her laughs, her confidence, and soon, perhaps, her life, and the complexity of this revelation begins to unfold in his mind, layering memories of past betrayals, sibling rivalry, and romantic entanglements into a tangled web of emotional chaos, while Sharon and Adam exchange a glance, a silent acknowledgement of the battles fought to reach this point, the obstacles overcome, and the shared understanding that their union is about more than romance. It is a reclamation of control, self-respect, and the right to happiness unmediated by Nick's expectations or the Newman family's scrutiny, and as Nick's voice cracks, his tone oscillating between disbelief and rage, he accuses Sharon of orchestrating this, of plotting to humiliate him, but Sharon counters, her voice calm yet edged with steel, stating that her happiness is not a game, that she is not manipulating him or seeking revenge, that her decision is hers alone, and the room falls into tense silence broken only by the faint hum of the city outside, the ticking of clocks marking time that no longer belongs to him, because in this moment, Nick realizes that the past cannot be reclaimed, that love cannot be demanded, and that Sharon's choice signals not just an ending but a rebirth, not just for her but for the dynamics within the Newman family, Because Adam's presence as Sharon's new partner will inevitably create friction, alliances, and conflicts that will reverberate through every corner of Genoa City, challenging loyalties, shaking foundations, and forcing characters to confront their own desires, fears, and ambitions in ways they have long avoided. And while Nick grapples with the enormity of this revelation, the camera, or rather, the audience's imagination, follows Sharon and Adam as they leave the mansion, a unified front, each step a statement of strength and defiance, a narrative that says, "We are here together and nothing you think you control will alter that." And as they disappear from Nick's view, the aftermath begins to settle like a storm aftershock, the silence punctuated by whispered speculations from employees, family members, and neighbors who have witnessed the confrontation, each one processing the implications differently, some siding with Sharon's right to happiness, others sympathizing with Nick's shock and hurt, while the media vultures of Genoa City are already circling, eager to spin the story, anticipate scandals, and predict the fallout, because in a town where personal choices become public spectacle, no emotional declaration goes unnoticed, and as Sharon and Adam step into a new chapter, they both understand that this is only the beginning, that their relationship will face scrutiny, sabotage, and envy, yet they remain undeterred, driven by a shared vision of a future unburdened by the constraints and betrayals of the past. And meanwhile, Nick, left standing amidst the wreckage of his expectations, begins a painful process of self-reflection, realizing that his possessiveness, assumptions, and inability to truly see Sharon as an independent, autonomous person have contributed to this moment, that his anger and sense of betrayal are inextricably linked to his failure to respect her agency, and as he grapples with this, he is forced to confront the painful truth that love is not about possession or control but about mutual respect and freedom, a lesson that comes too late to prevent Sharon from leaving with Adam, yet just in time to spark a period of profound personal growth, tension, and drama that will echo through every interaction he has with his family, his colleagues, and himself, while the audience is left on edge, wondering how Victor will react to the revelation that his sons are now rivals not only in business but in love, how Nikki will counsel her son as he navigates the complex emotions of jealousy, loss, and family loyalty, and how Genoa City as a whole will adapt to the seismic shift in relationships that Sharon's decision has set into motion. And as the days progress, each character is forced to make choices that test their morality, loyalty, and ambitions, because in a city fueled by desire, power, and secrets, one dramatic declaration like Sharon's can set off a chain reaction of events that none can predict, none can control, and all must navigate with caution, intelligence, and a willingness to embrace change, while the tension between Nick, Sharon, and Adam continues to simmer, presenting opportunities for reconciliation, further conflict, or unexpected alliances, all of which promise to keep viewers on the edge of their seats, eyes glued to the unfolding drama. Because in The Young and the Restless, no act of love, betrayal, or courage exists in isolation, and Sharon's slap, her declaration, and her new relationship are catalysts for an intricate, ongoing narrative that will redefine relationships, loyalties, and power dynamics across Genoa City, ultimately proving that endings, no matter how painful, are also beginnings, and that in the complex web of human emotion, every choice reverberates, every action matters, and every heart, whether broken or triumphant, propels the story forward into uncharted, electrifying territory, leaving everyone, Nick, Sharon, Adam, Victor, Nikki, and the entire city, forever changed by a single unforgettable moment of courage, truth, and love. The aftermath of Sharon Newman's shocking revelation continues to reverberate through Genoa City, the weight of her decision pressing down on every corner of the Newman mansion as Nick stands frozen, struggling to reconcile the image of the woman he thought he knew with the reality of her choice, a choice that now places Adam Newman not only at the center of Sharon's life, but also squarely in the heart of a rivalry Nick cannot easily control. Because this is more than sibling competition or romantic entanglement. It is a seismic upheaval of familial and personal loyalties, a dynamic that promises to shape every conversation, every glance, every decision for months to come. And as Nick paces the mansion, his mind is a storm of disbelief, anger, and heartbreak, each thought colliding with the next as he grapples with the enormity of what has just occurred, while Sharon, walking alongside Adam through the quiet streets of Genoa City, feels an unfamiliar lightness mingled with apprehension, knowing that their public appearance as a couple will inevitably provoke whispers, judgment, and speculation. Yet she is determined to embrace this moment, to claim the happiness that has long been denied to her by circumstances, expectations, and Nick's own inability to fully appreciate her worth. And as they enter a small, cozy cafe, far removed from the chaos of their families, Adam reaches out to take her hand, a gesture simple yet profound, symbolizing a partnership grounded, not in rivalry or obligation but in mutual understanding, respect, and a shared vision for the future. And as Sharon allows herself a rare smile, she feels a surge of hope tempered by the awareness that the road ahead will not be without obstacles, because Victor Newman, as the patriarch of a family defined by power, control, and ambition, is unlikely to accept this new alignment quietly. And already Sharon imagines the conversations, the confrontations, the carefully calculated attempts to undermine her happiness, and she steels herself, reminding herself that this time she will not bend, she will not falter, she will not allow anyone, even family, to dictate the course of her life. While back at the mansion, Nick sits in the grand study, the walls lined with books and mementos of a life that now feels hollow, replaying the slap, the words, the revelation in his mind like a looping nightmare, each memory a reminder of the opportunities he squandered, the trust he eroded, and the love he took for granted. And as his thoughts spiral, he recalls moments from their shared past, the laughter, the tenderness, the passionate embraces, all overshadowed by missteps, miscommunication, and his own insecurities. And he begins to understand that Sharon's decision is not an act of malice but an assertion of self-preservation, a statement that she will no longer be caught in the cycle of disappointment and reconciliation that has defined their relationship. And as he contemplates this, Nikki Newman enters, concern etched across her face, asking what has transpired, and Nick, struggling to find words, can only murmur fragments of the truth, leaving Nikki piecing together the full scope of Sharon's actions and their implications, her maternal instincts clashing with the shock of realizing that her son is grappling with heartbreak while the man he considers a rival now holds a place in Sharon's life. And as Nikki processes this, she begins to anticipate the domino effect, the inevitable confrontations that will ripple through Newman Enterprises, through the social circles of Genoa City, and through the intricate web of relationships that bind these characters together. While outside, the city itself seems to sense the tension, with whispers in cafes, salons, and corporate offices spreading like wildfire. The name Sharon Newman, coupled with Adam Newman, igniting curiosity, gossip, and speculation, because in Genoa City, nothing remains private for long, and the citizens, ever attuned to drama, watch with anticipation, eager to see how Victor, Nick, Phyllis, and others will respond to a situation that threatens to upend their expectations, their alliances, and their influence. And as Victor learns of the development, his reaction is immediate and electric, a combination of fury, disbelief, and protective instinct for his family, because he sees not just a romantic partnership but a challenge to his authority, a fracture in the power structure he has spent decades solidifying. And already he begins to plot, strategize, and consider how to regain control, how to manage Nick's heartbreak, Adam's ambitions, and Sharon's newfound autonomy, while also calculating the potential damage to Newman Enterprises, aware that any misstep could create a cascade of consequences in both personal and professional spheres. And as Victor confronts Nick in a tense, private conversation, the air thick with unspoken accusations and unresolved resentment, Nick lashes out, blaming everyone except himself, his anger a mask for pain, while Victor, cold and precise, reminds him that life is not a series of rights and wrongs but of consequences, and that Sharon's happiness, as painful as it may be to Nick, is not a matter to be negotiated or manipulated. And as this exchange unfolds, Phyllis Abbott, ever the observer, sees the opportunity to leverage the situation to her advantage, considering alliances, possibilities, and strategic maneuvers that could secure her position, power, or revenge, while Billy Abbott remains focused on supporting his loved ones, attempting to mediate the growing tension and prevent it from escalating into full-blown family warfare. And as the days progress, each character must navigate a maze of loyalty, jealousy, ambition, and desire, with meetings, confrontations, and secretive conversations layering the story with intrigue, as Sharon and Adam cautiously reveal their relationship publicly, provoking reactions ranging from admiration to scorn, while Nick wrestles with public perception, familial expectations, and his own inability to reclaim what he has lost. And the narrative expands outward, encompassing business dealings, social events, and intimate moments of reflection, as Sharon begins to see Adam's strengths, kindness, and loyalty, contrasting them sharply with the pattern of disappointment she experienced with Nick, reinforcing her choice even as she anticipates the inevitable attempts by Nick, Victor, or others to undermine her, and the tension is amplified during social gatherings, business meetings, and private encounters, where glances, whispered comments, and pointed questions act as subtle instruments of conflict and manipulation, each interaction laden with unspoken meaning and potential consequences.